Welcome back to SwitchCorner, my name is Alex and today we're going to be taking a look at Sherlock Holmes Crimes and Punishments on the Nintendo Switch. Now originally released in 2014, how does it stand up with this port in 2022 and is it going to be worth your time? Well, hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here, join our growing family and let's get started. So in this one we take on the role of title Sherlock Holmes, detective extraordinaire, and rather than one single storyline, we actually find ourselves facing 6 self-contained stories. Now 2 of these, they are based on the original text, while the remaining, they are written in the style of, with more than a few references that should hit home for fans of the text. It's incredibly well written though, honestly. Sherlock is, somewhat arrogant and even dislikable, honestly, but the supporting cast, it does enough heavy lifting here to add a dash of minor humour and almost humanity to the text, dependent on your deduction skills as well. In these cases, they could last anywhere from, let's say, an hour to my longest, that was 3 hours, so a decent chunk of game time at the same time. These cases then, I don't want to reveal too much, but early examples go everywhere from murders to disappearing trains and domestic cases. Naturally though, given the Sherlock Holmes spin, it's never straightforward, they often appear near impossible, and yeah, good fun, no complaints from me on a writing front. It's my second time with the game now and there's no regrets with me from the hours spent. Gameplay then, and we have a dialogue heavy exploration game asking you to solve the 6 cases and the mystery behind them. This can be third person or first person with the tap of the B button, but for me personally, third person it is the way to go. Seeing the character on screen, for me, it kind of elevated the setting on, the fame of the title Sherlock Holmes. Gameplay though is for sure at points challenging, no question about it. This is not simply following markers on a map for the game to give you an answer. It's going to, require brain power. It's going to ask you to uncover clues and then you'll be asked to determine those that are in the wrong. There's actually multiple outcomes as well. You can accuse any of those under scrutiny and you can absolutely be wrong. Each case here though wraps up with what I'd call a result screen that gives you a few stats. It includes the number of clues found, whether you chose to arrest or maybe give a character a pass, and then whether you want to replay the closing moments and accuse an alternate as well. It's a nice spin giving you the freedom, but for me, sticking to your guns, continue that story forward, and then you should come back for a second playthrough if you feel you want another chance. Well, I wouldn't describe this one then as an open world. It is a collection of small sandbox locations that you can freely move between thanks to a handy map. This can be everything from your home location to famous London landmarks to baths to Scotland Yard. The game gives you a case, tells you what you need to solve, and then really the rest, that's very much going to be up to you with exploration and interaction alongside dialogue trees. The characters though and the interrogation scenes, some of my personal favourites. Well, for the most part, you'll absolutely work through all dialogue tree options. They are accompanied with these minor character investigation scenes. Now, nothing complicated. Move the camera over the character, identify things like personal traits or areas that stand out. Think a reticle pops up on screen, but it's incredibly satisfying, wealthy clothing, dirt under the nails, dirt on clothes. That's going to prove location. It's so simple but so incredibly rewarding. It's enjoyable though because it just shows the character's ability at detecting what stands out, and it also goes for those characters that are unfortunate enough to lose their lives in a few of the stories. You'll very much find yourself in the morgue. When it comes to exploration then, as well, as I said, it is third or first person, but the locations, they range in size. For sure unique though, it's not a side of London you would expect to see. One unique example of Sherlock's abilities though, that is going to be his talent and imagination. These will give you a hint of what to go to next, or even if you've uncovered enough, think a potential interpretation of what actually occurred at the scene. I really like these talents because it balances this line between making you work for the answer, but still almost giving you the benefit, from the brain and ability of one of the best detectives in literature, where he displays almost superhuman intuition. Outside of that, in these moments you will occasionally get to switch characters as well outside of Sherlock, though I won't spoil who, and then you'll also solve some basic puzzles. These puzzles, it's got to be the weak spot of the gameplay for me, repetitive locks and some environmental pieces, but I think the game understands this because after a few moments of attempting to solve them, it actually allows you to skip them and go straight to the answer, and I think that is a very smart design choice, giving the control to the player. The only other element, what the game calls the deduction space. Here clues appear on screen, often with multiple options. You need to choose what is the correct response. Think, let's say, a knife and then a stab wound victim. Link that together and it will start to create a picture of what occurred. Find enough clues though and match them up and you'll actually unlock the answer to your case and who should be either forgiven or accused. Other problems then, following the first case, Watson, your associate, starts to follow you around. He has his moments in the story to shine, but as an AI controlled companion, just kinda can end up standing in your way. The game moves them, but it breaks immersion for sure. Likewise then, the controls, this is not a typical open world styled experience. Its focus is unraveling clues, and the movement and focusing on objects of interest, it can be at times somewhat clunky. Then another issue is definitely the menus. Look, they're not bad, but navigating them, it's gonna take a little bit of practice. It's contained in this kind of book. It's gonna take a little while to understand how to navigate the pages. Think to things like clues or the map where you can fast travel. Finally, on the Switch, I'm impressed with performance, well, generally, at least outside of the occasional stutter, but it does have longer load screens than other platforms. Now fortunately for many of these, you can look through your journal in these moments when you're sitting in let's say a carriage waiting to move on, but they definitely feel extended given the fact I played this originally on the PlayStation. Overall though, look, it's one of my favourite games to hold the Sherlock name. The performance here is good, the gameplay, it is addictive, and it has this great balance between dialogue heavy investigation, but also then the exploration that I found absolutely intriguing from beginning to end. Graphically then, look, I was really impressed. While it's for sure clearly a game from 2014 on the Switch, they've done this great job of bringing across the original intention. I think each location is unique and the variety is huge. Given it's London, there's a lot going on here. Finally, the character models, while a little lifeless in their movement when not in dialogue, they still look really good, especially when you're face to face. I think they did this fantastic job of creating different expressions on their faces during conversations that don't come off, as heavy-handed. For example, if someone's, let's say, guilty, it's not all that obvious. It still has some visual issues though. Given the hardware, you will notice that some textures pop in and occasionally there's a weird flash where you'll almost cut through the world, but it's not unknown for what is a relatively low budget title to have issues. This one originally actually suffered from tearing on PC, which has now for sure been resolved. Look, yeah, honestly, I really liked its period take on London and docked or handheld. Outside of these minor issues, I really liked what I got and I do not think you will be disappointed. Audio finally, and again like a winner, the game has this great use of environmental effects to not only build a location but the era as well, and then the music suitably in keeping. Now I would not call it memorable honestly, but what did stand out was the quality of the voice acting. Not one cast member let me down though here. They felt true to the influence and source in some cases, and I think they did a top quality job. So the final verdict on Sherlock Holmes Crimes and Punishments, it's a game I'm excited to see now on the Switch. Recently they released a new spin on the character. It was called Chapter 1, where Sherlock's gone almost a little bit emo, but yeah, also more open world. I'm hoping now from here we get to see that next. The elements contained here though, top quality, exploration, dialogue, sandbox locations, and abilities that feel suitable for the character. Problems? Sure, like the occasional visual glitch. Puzzles are weak and that movement, it can be clunky, but none of that took away from what felt like a rewarding representation of the title character. The only other thing I would say it's worth knowing, look, realistically it's a game from 2014. You can pick this one up on other platforms now, relatively cheap, as it does see a lot of sales. At time of recording, in fact, I saw it sub $10 or your regional equivalent on PC, so you need to decide now, can you justify that price point? Me though, like, it absolutely comes recommended, and it's a great 8 out of 10 from me today. I can't ignore the issues it does have, but this character and world, it always intrigued me, and it is a top quality port from the team. Will you be adding this one to the library then, or holding onto that cash? A shout out then to the patrons of the channel who are going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. It helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. Then hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.